Rando Marathon of Summer 2024. My name is Hebiggs, and we are here raising money for the Liam Foundation, whose mission is to encourage, assist, heal, and empower our LGBTQIA plus community through respect, advocacy, and passionate hearts to promote thriving in society. We have a $10 donation from Siren Share, hopefully I pronounced that right. It says, name one of the FF6 dudes, Pedro, please, in memory of the great Pedro 6. Will do. Very much appreciated for that donation. And it looks like we are ready for some Beyond Chaos with Dark/88 and Faflo23. They will not be in the booth, but we do have their lovely couch. So take it away, Fusoya.
Thank you so very much. Really excited to be here. Show off and showcase Beyond Chaos. We're going to be doing a race today between, as you just mentioned, Dark/88, Faflo23, two very experienced runners of both the vanilla game as well as the variations that have come in through Beyond Chaos. The particular one that we're going to be looking at today is a relatively new category called Opera Percent. For those of you who are familiar with Final Fantasy VI, you probably remember quite well the opera scene. For those of you who do not know Final Fantasy VI, you're in for a treat. And so that's going to be the category we're running today. The current flag set is one that was put together primarily for a slightly different type of run that we refer to as permadeath. This is a somewhat popular category amongst a lot of the veteran Beyond Chaos players. It is slightly more difficult than would be normally expected from the game, and it adds a lot of challenge and requires some forethought in how you route your way through the run. One thing that I will note here is that you're probably used to seeing randomizers that kind of represent more of a open world or a kind of treasure hunt type of experience. That will not be what's happening here. So Beyond Chaos is a very extensive randomizer. You're going to see so many things that are different from vanilla. But the one thing that it more or less leaves intact is the story progression. And so the run is going to be more akin to a speed run from start to opera. But that being said, what we do want to show off for you here is not only the execution of these two really excellent runners, but also all of the bells and whistles that have been built into this randomizer. As I mentioned before, it is extremely extensive. You should be listening for new music, watch out for new characters. We are playing mostly textless, though there is some significant changes to dialogue. I said that leaves the story intact. I actually kind of lied a little bit. Keep an eye out for some somewhat interesting differences from the vanilla story. That will become apparent a little later. Yeah, we'll get to we'll get there. You'll be surprised. So everything down to character sprites, monster sprites, music, pretty much everything you can think of, other than the skeleton of the story is going to be randomized. So I think I'm babbling. So I'm gonna hand it over to Muppets and Cecil for a bit, just to let them kind of introduce themselves and also give an idea of what they're looking at.
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. Let's kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy. We can talk on the run, shall we?
Oh, yes.
Oh, baby. Yeah, great. Now I'm gonna babble. Hi, guys. I'm Muppets in Space alongside Fuso and Cecil 188. Both wonderful people of the Beyond Chaos community. And Cecil also has the distinguish of being the first person to have streamed a permadeath victory for Beyond Chaos. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cecil.
I know there was another run that was done on YouTube years before the community really hit its stride. I don't remember the particulars of that run, other than that it was very tonally different from what we were doing. But yeah, I think mine is the first really well-known one. It was the first one to be done at a level that is more comparable to Vanilla's, but I won't get into that. Yeah, so the run has begun.
Yeah, so one thing to note about what we're talking about when we say permadeath. Permadeath is not if a character dies, they're gone forever. That's Nuzlocke, which is a more like Pokemon-esque style thing. Permadeath essentially means you generate a new seed, we call it, new randomization, and you start from this point right here. And you play it until you get a victory or a game over. The game over screen means that you scrap the seed that you are currently playing and you regenerate a new randomization. You start from the beginning and you go, and you do it blind.
That being said, these runners may accrue a couple game overs over the course of the seed. They will not be starting from the beginning. We'd be here all night, which, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to, but I think other people have other things to do.
Well, I think that there's a schedule to adhere to, for sure.
I'm not doing anything for the rest of the night. I might lose my voice at some point, but so I did want to break in real quick. So you're noticing that we're going through the initial sequence in Narsh. For those of you who are familiar with the story, both runners are doing very similar things because a lot of the early routing is going to be based on things that happen during, say, a vanilla speedrun, where you're kind of doing some gaming for XP by running and having the characters not split the XP. The other thing you might notice, though, it was very quick because right now all you can see is that they have Magitech, which is somewhat normal, is that some of the characters don't actually have the commands you expect them to. And there are a few comparisons to be made in terms of the different variations on Final Fantasy VI that have shown up in the past couple of years, but the Beyond Chaos Randomizer is much more closely akin to a very highly variable and very customizable ROM hack, as opposed to, say, Worlds Collide, for those of you who are familiar with that randomizer, where they do some fairly extensive randomization of character attributes and things like that in the service of the run, but they don't have new commands, which I think you'll see show up in just a little while once we get past this first sequence.
So one of the things to note about what the run is that you're about to see is it's very much like the Kefka at Narsh run that most people are familiar with, the shorter beginning of the game run for FF6 vanilla. A lot of the routing will be similar to that style of routing. There will be some caveats, of course, because of the randomization. They're going to want to gather more experience. They don't have it meticulously routed like Kefka at Narsh, so there's no reset manipulation, as it were. There's no telling what reset manipulation would even do, because one of the great many things that are randomized in this is also RNG results for various things.
Yeah, and in a similar thread, because this question is likely to come up, any of the glitches that you're aware of, and I know there's so very few glitches in vanilla Final Fantasy VI that it's hard to imagine that we'd actually want to fix any of them, but they are all, in fact, fixed. So no sketch glitch, no Vanished Doom glitch, the evade bug has been fixed. All of the is in the sort of developer intended state. As sort of a base to lay the rest of the randomization on top.
So you'll also notice that the alterations that are made into this go right down to the Magitech menus too. In vanilla, you have access to Tech Missile, and you have access to Heal Force. In this, Terra doesn't have access to either of those things. Has Tech Laser, Atomic Ray. I believe Bioblast is in the 6th set usually. It's not here. So everything gets scrambled up.
And now that Fatflo has kind of skirted past Welk here, our first boss of note, when they get into a battle, you're going to see immediately what the new command set is. If we get into a battle, that might be the case. Just maybe. There we go. So as soon as it comes up here, our Cognazo, you can see that Lore and Magic are both in their command set. So Magic is vanilla for Terra, for the Terra replacement, I guess I should say. Lore is a vanilla command, but maybe one thing I could also point out is that much like Worlds Collide and a few other ROM hacks, so for the other commands that sort of have menus and lots of skills that are associated with them, lore, dance, rage, things like that, they are all going to be learned as a matter of course. So in other words, rather than the specific conditions, basically you'll pick up rages as you see the formations, you'll pick up lores as they become available. So that's just a kind of small little quality of life insertion. There's many quality of life things that are going on here. Another thing you may notice is that the menu screen actually looks very different from vanilla. And of course, many randomizers do sort of extensively change the menu. Beyond Chaos is no different. You'll see a lot of different things where we kind of ripped out things that ended up being redundant and made them more compact, more usable, and added in, for instance, an entire music list. So you can listen to any of the music that has been randomized into the game. I don't have the audio up, so I can't hear it, but you're probably hearing selections from multiple different RPGs and other games as we go through the various areas. And the music selection is randomized, but it is also themed in its randomization. We have several wonderful contributors who have put together new arrangements of many old favorites. You see all of the sprites, all the sprite work is custom done by lots of really talented people. So there's a lot to enjoy, and you're probably never going to run out of new opportunities and new fresh looks at the game, given all of this.
Beyond Chaos definitely gives an awful lot. We are still learning things about the game now that's been randomized for forever. That is 30 years old. Just going to underscore that for a second. And
you can't see it, but I just aged visibly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even the randomizer itself is approaching somewhere around the 10-year-old mark. It's been around for quite some time, and it's been essentially in development through that entire stretch. Sometimes development has been faster than others, but we still continue to improve upon it every single week, even 10 years down the road. So perhaps a lot more to look forward to in the future, even.
Yeah, I mean, it would take the entirety of our time here to list all of the contributors to this rando. It predates a lot of the open world randomizers that are now popular, and so hence it's sort of more locked in structure. But it's been an immense amount of work from so many different people, and it continues to be developed to this very day, much to Dark Slash's consternation at times. Dark Slash is our project manager, and he weekly will get down in the dirt and start bug fixes. He's responsible for all the releases, and so he is a great person for taking that on.
So, speaking of the altered and added commands, over in Dark Slash's stream, you saw Cure 3 followed by Quadrislam. That is a command that is called out of a specific thing. It's not necessarily a sword tech and a magic command. It is just the randomized thing. You can call it as many times as you want, as many turns as you get. But the targeting for Cure 3 Quadrislam was enemy targeting. So it begins by curing your enemy, and then you quadrislam them. Not especially helpful long term.
Well, think of it this way: it's more of a tactical thing. You're making them think that you're helping them, and then you're destroying their life. So really, it's more about a psychological warfare here.
Yeah. You're lulling them into a false sense of camaraderie.
I will say, when I was vetting this seed, I was casting it on myself a lot, because Cure 3 is, unsurprisingly, extremely good healing for this point in the game, and Quadrislam actually isn't that threatening to your own party. In fact, it may even be beneficial if you're under the effects of muddle or sleep. But yeah, I was casting it on myself. Launcher Fire 2 is another great skill. That character is just very versatile overall.
Launcher Fire 2 is great. Launcher being a fractional damage attack that checks for death protection. Each hit takes away half of your HP, and it does up to 8 hits. And then following that up with Fire 2, it's pretty devastating. You can get someone down to 5% of their health, and then, just breathe on them wrong, and they go bow.
So our runners are fairly close to each other. Afathlo got a little bit of a lead going in. I think he might have picked up 1 or 2 fewer battles than Dark Slash in the initial run. And they're through the initial sequence of Narsh, they're moving through Figaro Castle and the subsequent Figaro Cave. I think at this point, it's still a little too early to say that either runner has a particular advantage. As I said before, they're both very, very experienced. And Beyond Chaos and under this flag set can be, what would be a good word for this?
Challenging?
Challenging? Yeah, I was gonna say choosy in the way that it wants to express itself. Beyond Chaos is a living, breathing entity. We don't taunt Beyond Chaos. It will come after you.
That's right. You respect it respects you. Sometimes.
But I do want to point out though that these are, so we pointed out before that there was permadeath flags. That is not the way that you have to play this game. We really do encourage people to use the randomizer in a way that makes them happy. And so while we do have a large section of people who are made happy by permadeath, they are crazy people, and by no means the 2 people in this room with me right now. But there are many different things many different combinations of things that you can put together, and you can make a given seed, customize it to your heart's content, and really, up or lower the difficulty as much as you like, and just play through with a new fresh paint, fresh coat of paint on Final Fantasy VI. And Final Fantasy VI is one of my favorite games. Beyond Chaos, I found it, very early on in its development, and I was just completely blown away by all the things that could be done, and how new the experience is every time. Oh yeah, please go ahead.
I was actually going to ask. We're starting to see a couple of shops and some interesting symbols next to equipment, and I thought maybe we would like to go into some of that. We are hovering over a pair of goggles that had an exclamation point and some text, sneeze guard, underneath it. What is that?
So there are a couple features that are added to Beyond Chaos. You'll see in the weapon shop there are a couple tools with question marks, and you'll see in the relic shop there are a couple relics with exclamation points. Those marks are not limited to those specific types of equipment, but that's just the examples we have to work with at the moment. Question marks are basically noting to the player that something about the properties of that piece of equipment has changed, and it is done in a way that is basically a remixing of vanilla content. So you may see a flame shield that is questionable because it absorbs thunder instead of fire, for instance. Or maybe you'll see some relic is questionable because it picks up the muscle belt's effect of plus 50% HP. So that is what the questions mean. They tell you that it has a different vanilla effect than usual. The exclamation marks, on the other hand, are a almost brand new feature, comparatively speaking, which is the junction system, sort of inspired by Final Fantasy VIII's system of the same name. It introduces something like 170 different possible effects that, for the most part, do not exist in vanilla. These are entirely new things that are inspired from other games in the series, like Final Fantasy Tactics, or various other games that I'm sure I could think of if I actually had the spreadsheet I made in front of me. Never mind that, though. But these are effects that do not exist in the vanilla game, and They are designed to make typically unappealing options more viable. They are designed to introduce more synergies between pieces of equipment that not be found in vanilla, and it's a great way to shake up the equipment system to give you actual character builds and equipment builds and whatnot, because one thing that the original game is sort of lacking is that there's not a terribly large number of synergies. You'll see the particularly famous ones like offering and fixed dice, but aside from that, helmets are not particularly important. Physical armor is not particularly important for the sake of synergies. It's just a nice defensive stick. This expands the scope of that to allow you to really consider your options. But just like everything else in this randomizer, while you can randomize as pretty much as you want, the other thing to note is that it is entirely optional if it does not appeal to you. Pretty much everything that you're seeing is a different sort of module, and by that logic, you can turn it off if you don't particularly consider that to be something that you want to interact with at the time.
And the other big thing that's quality of life about that, too, is that the user interface for generating a seed is very streamlined. So if you want to turn something off, it's not as complicated as typing in something in a long string of flags. It's literally just clicking a button and deciding, no, I don't want that. Yes, I want that.
It's a very, very extensive interface too. Like almost, it might even be a little overwhelming, and so that's something that we take into consideration. But we do try and organize things so that everyone kind of gets a feel for what's under what and what the overall effects of certain things are. And there's a lot of niche things in there, but there's also a lot of really interesting, full of content and lots of changes. So Junctions is one of the more recent examples, and something that I wanted to kind of call out here is that I think one of the biggest draws for this, and maybe Muppets and Cecil can speak to this, is that Muppet said that the base game doesn't, or sorry, Cecil said that the base game didn't have a lot of synergies. So you ended up you could just brute force your way through a lot of different things. Whereas the randomization options that get imposed on Beyond Chaos makes it feel a lot more roguelike in its presentation. And all three of us are big fans of that genre. And I think that's also what kind of holds a lot of appeal for a game like Beyond Chaos.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I got bit by the roguelike button bug probably 6 years ago, and it aligned with everything that I loved about this randomizer, so absolutely. Couple of other things that I want to highlight. Couple of other things I want to highlight too is what's going on with some of the commands here. I saw a command with a question mark and a 4 times. Cecil, what in God's name is that?
So chain slide means, slide is a particularly underused skill in the vanilla game. Only a couple enemies pick it up, and that's about it. But one thing that Beyond Chaos does is it allows you to see more abilities and more context, and in this seed, slide happens to be one of them. It's just a somewhat generic multi-target Earth Elemental attack, but the question mark in front of it is the interesting part, because what it does is it casts the spell once, and then the game sort of internally flips a coin. And if it calls the coin flip correctly, it will cast it again. If it doesn't call it correctly, then it will stop. And then after it casts it again successfully, it will flip another coin. And as long as it keeps calling the coin flip correctly, it will cast slide repeatedly. And that can be very funny when Fathful uses it and ends up casting it something like 6 or 7 times against a set of floating enemies that don't get hit by a float-respecting attack like Slide. Doesn't flip the coin, it's like, yeah, let's cast Slide. That didn't work, but let's do it again. Oh, but that didn't really work, but maybe it'll work if I do it the 3rd time. They won't see it coming a 4th time, for sure. And
for
so
sure.
on and so forth.
None of this is to be... Oh, I just want to point out, none of this is to be confused with coin toss, where you take that coin, you flip it, and then you wing it at the enemy. Sorry,
Yeah.
Yeah, on the flip side, four times tech is an example of one of the R skills. The base R skill being R tech. There are a lot of these in Beyond Chaos. They are new, completely novel commands to kind of spice up the playthrough even more. And so one of the more simple examples to demonstrate is R Fire, which is basically just you cast one of the specifically fire elemental spells in the game. So fire or fireball or fire skein or whatever it happens to be. Our tech it calls from a specifically curated list to be sort of Magitech in nature. So it's got the Magitech skills like Bioblast and Xfer and all that. It includes some things like Hyperdrive. And 4 times tech will it'll pull from a random spell in that list 4 times. It won't be the same spell every time. You could cast something like Diffuser, then Fire Beam, and then Bioblast, and then Hyperdrive. You could do that in 1 turn. And it's 4 times tech is particularly rare. It's one of the reasons why I thought this would be a good seed for an exhibition purpose, because it's very flashy and very volatile in the number of effects it can pull off. So I thought that would be fun.
Yeah, no, that's super, and there's a number of different command combinations also that can appear. We won't see all of them just because we're not going to be able to get to about half the characters in the run, and obviously the randomization makes it so that there's no guarantee of anything. But suffice it to say, there is a lot of things that you will see, or you can randomize in. I did want to give maybe a quick update on where we are. So both runners are spiraling downward into their doom. They are coming up on what I will argue is probably the first real, usually challenging part of the run. So we're coming up on the boss that in vanilla is called Vargas. You are going to see a slightly different Vargas fight from what you might expect from, say, Vanilla or Worlds Collide, or maybe a ROM hack of some kind, because the commands have been moved around. And so obviously there's no guarantee that you will have the trigger command that is needed to actually complete that battle in a reasonable amount of time. So watch for what the difference is here. It does factor in a little bit on how the runners are going to handle what particular skill set the Sabin replacement gets.
And even besides Vargas, Mount Colts is something of a relatively large endurance test. It's kind of one of the longer dungeons of the game almost, and I see Dark Slash on the left is taking a fair bit of damage. Poor Pedro the Turtle got shot by a tech laser earlier, and that took out 80% of his health. It's a pretty spicy move to see at this point in the game. So as long as they have enough tonics, they'll be fine, but
Tech Laser is lightning elemental, I think, and Lit does scare the turtle, so I think that all matches up.
Hiding inside the shell. Hiding inside the shell.
All right, so Fathlo has... Oh yeah, please go ahead, Thomas.
Oh, you absolutely have that.
I was just going to say, Fathlo's entered into our Vargas fight. Vargas, he was juicing before, now he's really off the chain here, as you can see by how jacked he is. He's flanked by 2 enemies that make him untargetable until they're dead. Fathlo has cut through them, and he's going to be... so the tactic here is that Vargas's HP has been reduced to a manageable amount. That's one of the changes that has been made. And so runners are going to try and get as close to possible before the transition point where the current party gets kicked out and the Sabin replacement enters in, so that they can have as little HP to drain. Or in Fathlo's case, he is just going to blow right past all of that, skip the transition, and not have to worry about it.
I really hope that Dark Slash doesn't roll as well so that we can actually feature what happens there. But essentially, Vargas's hit points have been reduced to somewhere in the vein of 1,400, I think. And there is an HP threshold by which the battle stops and Sabin is called. The rest of your party gets blown away by Blizzard Fist or whatever he uses. And then you have the one-on-one battle.
So yeah,
Of
so
course,
we're
that
gonna
went better
see.
for both of them than it did for me.
My goodness.
I mean, the chain slide did some serious work there.
I think I had it cast once.
No one's favorite
It
validation
flipped
chest there after Vargas.
Do we have a
So-
moment for some quick donations?
Oh yeah, by all means.
Sure.
Yeah, the love has been pouring in from the community during what has been flabbergasting me. I've seen so many sprites, I can't even imagine how many games the resources have been pulled from for this randomizer. But we have $25 from Mirai. This says, meow. We have $5 from Arrow Riser that says, love how this marathon grows each event, more variety of randomizers each time for a great cause. Put this towards the rush hour goal for a hat in time because running away from a cat mafia boss is fun. We got $15 from Classic Gamer 76 that says, this is for Fizzle to take the thief on and run with it this evening for the upcoming FFR run. And we have $25 from Nile242 that says, my favorite game in super fun rando. So thank you all so much for those generous donations.
Yeah, thank you guys. Great.
Yeah, we love to see the community come out and support this great cause and just enjoy a run. Yeah, thanks again for that support. That's really very generous.
Pooh, I do have a question. Isn't the Returners hideout a little north of where it usually is here?
No, I think you're imagining things. That
Oh,
looks pretty
okay,
good.
okay. It's been a while since I've played, I guess.
All right, problem solved. Good to see that's no longer an issue.
Yeah, and actually now that you mention it, it does seem maybe like a pixel or two different. I mean, that's a really good call out. I wouldn't have noticed it otherwise, but yeah, I think what Muppets might be getting at is that we're seeing our first storyline change. There is a set of randomizer options which do allow for some limited rearrangement of certain storylines within the game. Some of those occur more in the world of random. I think we might need to run with that world of random in the world of ruin, the second part of the game. But some of them also occur now, and so the sharp eye. If you're keeping an eye on the world map that shows up in the bottom right screen, bottom right of the overworld, might notice that things are slightly not what you thought they were or what you remember them. I don't know. Do we want to go into that, or maybe I feel like we should just follow this and see where it leads.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I mean, right now it looks like we're just looting. We're just looting the back room.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
all
just
this
in the back room,
is
and to answer Serin's question, yes, there are monster in a boxes because Dark Slash just picked one up, and Flo just did as well.
What were you about to say, Cecil?
Yeah, all this is to say that Foo's aforementioned lying is now finally being exposed to the community for the fraudulence that it is.
Whatever. I am who I am, and I make no apologies.
Outstanding. So this is the dreaded thing that a lot of people have either decried or lauded the randomizer for, the monster in a box. That is a thing that occurred in vanilla. You have the all over, the presenter, your pugs, your master pug. Those are all monster in a boxes in the vanilla game. There are a few more in Beyond Chaos, a lot more. And anytime you open a treasure chest, a jar, a crate, you got a chance, and you never know what's going to pop out. It adds a fun little spice to the game, for sure. Just be ready for anything.
That can be
And on top of
particularly
it-
challenging. But if you are able to overcome the challenge, sometimes you get quite the spicy reward from it. So it's always worth testing your might against.
Among many other things that have been randomized, and I'm just going to keep saying that because it's so much.
It's so much.
It's so much. The enemy scripts, while they retain their structure for various reasons, are also being randomized in a controlled, tiered way. So you're seeing skills that normal vanilla monsters probably wouldn't see in this particular area. Bosses also have been randomized with attacks that they can do, and that's not the full extent of the monster randomization. We won't see it in this run, but there have been some modifications to various monsters in the game, including perhaps a few surprises you might find somewhere near the final boss should you decide that that's a route you want to go. So you are getting just a taste of the things that can go wrong.
Ooh, Life Shaver. At least it's a drain attack, but that is a rough one to see on the Leet River.
Indeed.
I'm sure I ran into those guys.
So, and one reason that might be is that another option in Beyond Chaos actually modifies the structure of how where the random encounters are being pulled from. Cecil, did you want to say a few words about that?
Yeah, so normally the way that the game generates encounters, for the most part, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, any given map has a total of 4 possible encounter slots that it can pull from. So in any particular place, you can expect as many as 4 different possible formations. The one exception, the one big exception that's relevant here is the floating continent about halfway through the game, because that dungeon is just one gargantuan map, and because I guess it was being sort of amped up as something that could theoretically be the final dungeon of the game, the way that it's structured is, I suppose they didn't want only 4 encounters, so the way they did it was they made it so that, this particular location has a unique flag that takes those 4 encounters and shuffles them with the next 3 sets of 4 encounters as well. So you can have as many as 16 possible formations on something like the floating continent. We have a flag that just extends that to the rest of the game as well, so now you can find as many as 16 possible formations just about anywhere, which means sometimes you'll just not even see a particularly aggressive enemy.
I just now noticed, is one of our party members a tree?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's amazing.
It's about to make like a tree and leaf too.
Okay, well, it's been fun. I gotta go.
The other one's a bit oddish.
Oh, baby.
Just a little.
Baby.
Physical pain right now.
I gotta lay down one of those.
To the cat's meow.
I mean, did someone redeem for that? Are we back in Muppets channel? I don't. Okay.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Facilier is withdrawing into his shell.
I'm gonna start chanting media. I mean, it won't fire for another 3 years, but you better be careful.
So we're neck and neck here. It looks like Dark Slash and Fathlow, and Ultros's tentacle attack, the intermittent tentacle attack, has been replaced by a single target wave cannon. How?
Wave cannon is just shy of the spell power Bolt 3, so yeah, a little bit tricky to manage at this point in the game.
Now Fathlow was significantly ahead on Mount Colts, and now Dark Slash is going into the scenarios before Fathlow. They're doing quite a back and forth there.
I do want to point out that, so we're seeing some what would arguably be later game attacks, and that is more or less a function of the permadeath flags. But I think that one of the things that also makes this attractive is that you do need to think on your feet, because you are going to get whacked every now and then. And so a lot of particularly routing in this run, but also in normal, standard Beyond Chaos runs is preparation. Like, you know that you're going to need a lot of elemental resistances. You know that you're going to want to be able to withstand certain status ailments. There is rule number 1, which is always be floating, because quake attacks will murder you. And I just wanted to point that out because I think that it's interesting that that preparation for on the fly is one of the skills that you kind of need to run this game.
So we just went down a waterfall with only Terra and Bannon. I don't remember this from the game. What's going on?
Magic.
What's wrong with the seed?
Again, I think I'm pretty sure this was vanilla. No, you're right. No. So, okay, we had a moving entrance from before, and now we've got characters who are not supposed to be here in a route that doesn't seem right. You know what? I think this is another randomization flag. I believe this is one called the scenario not tape.
That would be the one. It reshuffles the scenarios in a specific way related to how it was rewritten by, I think it's Power Panda. That was a new construction that we decided to opt for our randomizer as well. It's one of the more ambitious flags from a technical perspective, and what it does is it rebalances the scenarios so that they're similar in length and character count.
So, hence the reason that we have Bannon tagging along in a scenario that does not normally contain Bannon. Bannon is, for those of you who are not familiar with the normal Final Fantasy VI run, he is what we consider a VIP, which is giving him far too much credit. He's basically a real pain in the something or other. And if he dies, that's a game over. Now, a permadeath run, that would actually kill the run. In this case, it will just put them back to their save state, their previous save file. But yeah, you don't want him to die because that really is a permadeath thing. That really will put you back to the save. Yep. So and so the basic idea is now is to keep an eye out on all 3 scenarios because all 3 of them do in fact have changes. I think that this might be one of the more notable changes that Beyond Chaos can make to a run like this, where runners they're somewhat used to the generic vanilla sequence of events, whereas this is gonna mix it up a little bit.
Or nuke, baby, let's go.
This is a very dangerous command.
Nuke, that is a random non-elemental attack. Non-elemental magic attack. Notably, part of our nuke is Crusader. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure or displeasure of using Crusader, summoning Crusader in a battle in vanilla, but it does a great amount of non-elemental magic damage to everything, including you.
Especially.
Yeah, it has a spell power of 196, making it the 3rd strongest spell in the entire game.
That's right. That's right. Always save before our nuke. You can also just run away with one person. Run away with Bannon, and then use our nuke. Other things that can come up with our nuke that are actually useful, Quasar and Grand Train. And the way that this randomizer works, of course, being that if you see a lore and you finish a fight successfully, you get the lore. And since they have a lore user, it might actually be beneficial to use our nuke. Just saying. Just saying.
I picked up Big Guard and Force Field from 4x Tech when I ran through this seed. I figured my lore hunting gambling had paid off sufficiently, and I decided not to roll the dice on our nuke because... Yeah. Takes a little bit. Yeah. So here we see a couple of different ways of approaching a seed. Fatflow23 being a more traditional speedrunner style person, just completely bypasses the town
and goes right for the Serpent's Trench. Whereas Dark Slash, a little bit more of the permadeath style player, a little bit more of a completionist, is taking care of some errands in the town and is picking up the treasures. Maybe Dark Slash picks up something that's actually going to tip the needle in his direction.
Slash is also showing off a QOL feature, a quality of life feature that we incorporate, which is that normally you have to send several things to by post for this side quest's sake, and every single time you do that, you have to walk back and forth and check a shop and wait for some random schmuck to get out of the way after taking 8 seconds to stand in front of the door for no reason. Yeah, we kind of shrunk that down to only having to do it once for the sake of quality of life for the inevitable many playthroughs that most people typically do of this randomizer due to how replayable it is. Yeah, so that just makes that a lot nicer.
He got an air anchor for his trouble, though, so it's not exactly what he was looking for. That's not going to tip the needle, although it does have a question mark, which means that it will probably break for something, too. Fu, when I say that, could you elaborate on what I mean by this?
It means when he uses it, it just doesn't function anymore after that.
It's done.
Cheaply made. No, wait, sorry. I know this one. I do know this one. So in a normal. Who invited me to this anyway? Like so many items in the vanilla Final Fantasy VI game you can use, and they will produce spell effects. And in doing so, for instance, Gravity Rod will cast Demi or Quarter. Fire Rod will cast Fire, as it turns out, and all the other things that sort of make sense for their elemental properties. One of the primary, more used features of Beyond Chaos allows for basically any item to break for anything. And in some cases, it may actually even have a special property that it won't actually break. So in other words, you can use it as a single-use item, but you will continue to be able to use it without using it as if it were an inventory item. So this you always want to be checking the equipment that you get, because literally any equipment such as armor, helmets, or sorry, actually none of those. Let me try weapons. Any weapons, can break for things because you'd be able to use them. Actually, no, armor actually works too, because you can select it in the menu. Anything that's selectable in the menu is breakable, and you always want to keep an eye out for those, because even if it is breakable and you only get to use it once, it could really save your bacon.
Sure, yeah.
We got a $50 donation from Food and Couch. Food and Couch Company that says, "Let's go!" And with that, we have officially broken the record of last year Summer Marathon Day 1 record. So thank you so much, chat, for the generous donations and pushing us over that record-breaking achievement.
I was here.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, we did it. We did the thing.
We did the thing. All right, I'm out.
Our job here is done. Are we? It looks like we might be having some audio issue. Are we? Do we still sound like robots? I mean, I just am a robot, so that happens. But
Ruth. Well, and Cecil was made into a program.
Yes, this is also true. We're good now. Okay, perfect. So yeah, actually, that's probably worth talking about a little bit as well. So because of the extensive randomization and the knowledge base that is required to harness and leverage those things, we often bring a bot into chat called, let's see, what's starts with a C, I think?
Cornucopia bot.
No, wait.
Of course.
Yes. Yes.
Is it Cognazio bot? No.
Not so bot. Get back in your shell. No, so this is sort of a riff. Yeah, sort of a riff on the fact that our own Cecil is a dearth of knowledge when it comes to the functionality of this game, aspects of how it's programmed, the spell power of random things. It was aptly named Cecilbot.
Cecilbot, yeah.
Yeah, and I still contend that Cecilbot is actually just who Cecil is. I don't think that there's a difference. He can be in many streams at once.
All right, enough shenaniganery. Let's get back to this race, which is still very close. Fatlow is a little bit ahead right now. We're in the Imperial camp, which is one of the 3 scenarios before the next sequence. This one is the opening to this is a little bit easy unless you end up with some encounters, some forced encounters that are, particularly problematic. So this is more of an area to check around for a couple of treasure items. You may notice a few treasures that you missed when your first playthrough. Certainly, there was a few things here that I didn't know about. We're also going to get to see our Scion replacement, get a feel for what kind of character they've become and whether or not we need to throw them in the hot garbage track. So Fatlow is probably about, I'll say about 60 seconds ahead of Dark Slash right now, which is, not saying a whole lot given their relative skill levels.
See how badly the chain slide attacks, though. Oh, he's using the air anchor. What does it do? X-Fur.
X-Fur. What a rip. A rip.
I'm not angry about it.
But what?
I mean, it made an enemy go away. It has banished them to the dimensional vortex. So now Gilgamesh has to deal with them.
The cleft of dimension. Off with you.
That's still more use than I got out of it.
Yeah.
I think I just.
So you will notice a couple of things about this scenario. Usually you start out with just solo Sabin. This time we start out with Sabin and Edgar. The brothers are together because Edgar dove in after Sabin in this particular scenario. So
they're both particularly bright people in this particular version.
That's right. Yeah, it runs the family. But we are now in a party of Edgar, Sabin, Scion. And we're doing the escape from the Imperial camp, which is pretty standard. The encounter setups are the same. The whole Magitech thing that you have to do to get through is still the same. It's just you have Edgar instead of Shadow.
And they are both currently working their way through some of the forced encounters in the Grunts, and who happen to be randomized to Tonberries from Final Fantasy IX?
It
I'm more interested in the fact that Dark Slash used the air anchor again.
Oh, it is limitlessly breakable?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's not a very common thing.
Oh,
And I
right.
also just spotted a force field cast on Dark Slash side of the screen. For those of you who are not familiar with that particular skill, it can nullify certain elements, and so it is in the shorter runs maybe not quite as useful because you're not taking as much time to prep for things and trying to be aware of like elemental skills and whatnot, but in longer runs is huge because you can basically nullify an entire enemy set with it.
Yeah, it's noticeable for certain boss battles that you kind of know what you're looking for. Say, you know that you have to deal with the elemental spells out of Chatternook, for example. You force field all of them away, and then Chatternook is essentially useless until it charms you, and makes you kill yourself.
Which,
Boy,
by the way, is also something that can happen in BC.
Muddle's the most dangerous status in the game.
By far. By far. Oh, man. So, yeah, we are now neck and neck once again, even though Dark Slash took an extra minute and a half getting that air anchor. It looks like the air anchor is actually paying off, as it is unbreakable breakable. What we mean to say is there is a small chance that an item that you would normally break or use out of the item menu to cast or call a spell, normally you would use it and it would be removed from your inventory, but in this, it is replaced back into your inventory after it is used. So it is essentially a unbreakable item that you can just keep calling for that skill over and over again. So right now, Dark Slash has limitless Xfers.
The fun thing about that is one notable property about when you break an item for a spell. Normally, the most important thing is that the spell ignores defense, which is huge for just about every context of Final Fantasy VI. But in particular, there's that for this case in particular, there's actually something else that steals the spotlight, and that is the fact that spells broken as items can't be dodged. So, assuming the target is vulnerable to instant death, Xfer is guaranteed to connect when it's broken from that air anchor. So, super interesting piece of gear to have access to.
It is notable that it does not bypass instant death immunity. So the Vanish Doom bug, etc., it does not apply in this, and it can't apply through that either. So everything will respect instant death immunity on that front. But the thing that the Vanish status adds is a 100% hit rate, and items also have a 100% hit rate, because you don't want to use a potion and worry about it missing.
Which would be funny, though. I will grant you that.
Yeah, it'd be funny right up until you absolutely needed it for that one fight and lost your permadeath seed for it.
No, it would be funny for the observers, not for the player.
Truth.
Fire Emblem 4 stuff right there.
Yeah.
So both of our runners have entered into the Phantom Forest. So this is part of part of the vanilla scenario sequence. So we're still doing this in a semi-vanilla sequence, but you can see that it's been relocated a bit. This is another potential difficulty spike in the run. Not necessarily the Phantom Forest in and of itself, but the area that comes afterward, which is the Ghost Train. This happens to have a couple more powerful sets of enemies. Oftentimes, runners might, just unavoidably get pincer attacked here, and get, really beat up on. So, this is I would say this is a dangerous part of the run.
Yeah, a beloved member of our community, QuickDraw7777, says this is where the freaks come out to play. But more aptly, he's pointing at this is the time where the difficulty significantly spikes.
Beyond that, though, sometimes, in the vanilla game, there is a secret character, I guess, or a less known character that one can pick up here. It is a ghost. Of course, that is randomized to something different for this particular incarnation. And it is a question in some cases, actually, maybe in the scenario not taken, it's not there, but in normal without that, or props in this as well, you might want to take the chance and head back into the previous car, which I think Dark Slash is doing right now, to pick up the Black Mage, and add him to the party. So, and they're going to come along for a little while. They're only a temporary party member. They, however, are also randomized in the same way as everybody else. And it looks like this particular ghost has slots which in and of themselves are also randomized. So each of the slot outcomes can be randomized into different things. Usually people's favorite is when the fail slots turn into Crusader, because that's almost guaranteed to happen.
Oh dear.
That is an angry Oddish.
The old hyperdrive. Well, you got Big Guard out of it too. That's nice.
Big Guard is a defensive spell which bestows shell and safe, reducing physical and magical damage. Quite useful. I think that's a pretty highly desirable utility spell to have around.
It's not quite as powerful as its FF5 counterpart. I think this one does, 33% protection against magic and physical damage?
Yeah, though it has the unfortunate and very important caveat that anything that ignores defense also ignores safe and shell. So,
right.
Which is too bad, because Big Guard would be extremely useful if safe and shell protected against things that pierce defense. As it stands, especially for an MP cost of 80, I don't use it super frequently, to be honest. But
if it's free, it's free. I'm not gonna say no to it, but yeah, 80 MP is a lot for it.
I didn't realize it was that expensive.
Yeah.
It's when it works extremely well, but it's definitely not something that you can just throw it whenever, because especially at this point in the game, I don't even know if they have the MP to cast at this point.
This is sort of one of those areas where it's pretty straightforward. It's a lot like the trajectory that you would normally see in a vanilla speed run of this, except for of course, the encounters that you get. We could probably take a couple of donation announcements if we had any.
Awesome. Yeah, we have a $20 donation from Anonymous with no comment, but I want to say thank you to everybody. Every dollar counts. We are raising money for the Liam Foundation, whose mission is to encourage, assist, heal, and empower our LGBTQIA plus community through respect, advocacy, and passionate hearts to promote thriving in society. And chat, I wanted to make you aware of some incentives that we have coming up for our next run, the Final Fantasy I Randomizer run. We have an unmet incentive for 3 orbs specific. What that means is normally you have to defeat all 4 fiends and collect the orbs to proceed to the final chaos fight. 3 orbs specific will make it to where you only need 3 of the 4 orbs needed, but you need to get 3 very specific orbs, which they'll be able to find at the beginning of the run. There's also the 4th class bid war going on right now. Right now, Thief is in the lead with $55. Sorry. Black Mage is at $25, White Mage is at $50, and BB is at $50, so Black Belt. So if y'all want to put in for that donation incentive, either the 3 orb specific or the 4th class, you probably have until the end of this run to get those in. So make those get those donations in, and let's see some 3 orb specific. That's what I want to see.
Oh, BB.
Inventory orb. So our runners continue to, they're a bit on rails right now, going through the train, but they haven't had too much trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I can throw the puns out too, folks.
Give over to it, Foo. Give over to it.
The runners haven't had too much trouble. They're making pretty good use of a lot of the skill sets that have been presented to them. There's a pretty reasonable amount of material to work with here. So again, our very experienced runners are making the best of things. Although interestingly, I think that Fathlo still didn't pick up an air anchor or didn't realize that the air anchor was not unbreakable.
Yep,
so okay, so there you go. So that might actually give Darkslash a bit of an edge going into some of the later fights here.
So the trust in these cars are actually very different too. the scenario not taken seems to change things up a little bit. Normally, there's only the 4 treasure chests there, and then the one on the other side of the dining cart, and then the other treasures are actually on the floor. But the scenario not taken throws the 2 accessible treasures that are on the floor into boxes, and then there's one treasure that's technically inaccessible in the game, in the Ghost Train, and that is also put in a box and put alongside another one.
We are here to maximize your treasure intake in Beyond
Maximize
Chaos.
the MIB.
Yeah, that's right. We also are here to maximize your surprise. It's Super Boss.
That's
Can we
right.
mention that there's a Super Boss in the MIB category every now and then?
Every now and again, it's actually in the mix no matter what. Like, you can run into said super boss as a random encounter. It's not quite as frequent as that, but yes. It is, I believe, the unused World of Balance Umaro formation. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cecil.
There are 3. There's a low-tier super boss that does replace exactly that, the unused World of Balance one. There is a mid-tier super boss that replaces the unused Colossus enemy, and then there's a high-tier super boss that replaces the unused Tsar Dragon enemy. So there are 3 in the game.
Yep.
The high-tier one will kill you.
Yes, it will.
And it won't even feel bad about it. There's also a few formations that were never put into the actual game, still remain in the game's code, that we helpfully re-enabled for you. So in addition to some of the more traditional monster in a boxes that you would normally recognize, might also see things like 5 ice dragons in a battle. It's probably fine. Just a few of the surprises waiting for you.
Yeah, 5 times ice dragon fight, always a fun one.
Waiting for the 4 times Guardian formation to be enabled.
That's a fun one. That is a fun one.
That formation exists. It's very messy because all of the Guardians work off the same variable, so they end up accelerating through the script incredibly quickly. Normally it's like, I'll do a few turns here, a few turns there. We'll start off with the Dataluma script and then move into the Ultra script. But with that one, it's just like, nope, I'm in Atmos script already. Have fun with Flare.
Good.
A mess. Maybe that's why it's not included.
Yeah, it might be.
So we're both runners actually are now we're effectively neck and neck. Dark Slash was briefly in the lead there, and due to some menuing, allowed Fathlo to catch up, and they're a few seconds within each other. They both took care of Ghost Chain fairly quickly. As was pointed out in chat, no suplexes. Very sad, but that's okay. You are seeing a few other tactics there. Oftentimes the Ghost Train is going to be undead, and so it might be an easy, quick kill for them, where you just drop a Revivify or something of that nature and end the fight. In this case, I think the train was alive, though.
Yes. And instant death immune.
Although I want to point out that Dark Slash actually did something pretty funny. If you notice, whenever he goes into his item menu, the first 4 items, he's turned them blue. We have a feature in Beyond Chaos where you can press Y in the item menu to lock an item to that item slot. And that means whenever you sort your inventory, that item will not go anywhere. This is especially useful because you can move shurikens to the top of your weapon set and lock those in place so that every time you're using the throw command, you don't have to scroll down to the shurikens. They're right at the top of the list where you'd want them to be the most.
This particular area of the game, I feel like I need to just throw out a quick anecdote. It's one of the first experiences I had with Beyond Chaos, where I realized that I was probably in too deep. I was going through the Phantom Forest. I finished off the Ghost Train, barely, mind you, hurting pretty badly. But I knew, you just need to get past that into the waterfall, and you get a free heal. So I was feeling pretty good. Got past the little waiting part of that on the tracks, and then made my way into the overworld. And I got into a battle. And I said, okay, well, I'm just going to need to run away from this. Wasn't able to, mainly because the ghost train had come back, and that encounter was in fact a boss. So another thing that can happen is that boss encounters might rarely show up as regular encounters. And that was the moment that I realized that I was probably screwed.
Quite
That has happened to
the Storm Dragon like 7 times.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the fun part, right? Like if it shows up as a rare encounter, it's not like it's limited as a boss encounter. Sometimes you're just going to fight Goddess 3 or 4 times before you get out of the belly of the Zone Eater.
Don't I know it? Yeah, we're in Locke's scenario now. How do we do the merchant if we don't have steel? Well, it's just you hit an HP threshold and we trigger the script. We don't have to worry about that. That is something that's been a part of the randomizer for a long, long time now because we don't like soft locks. And we don't like locking one character into one skill either. We want our randomness. So you just kill the merchant and he becomes naked. You're killing his clothes.
And we prefer
Yeah,
lock
we
to
can-
soft box.
Fine, no, it's fine. I'm gonna take a few deep breaths, count to 10,000.
Locke
So
is no
Locke's
softy.
Locke is picking up Shadow in a sequence that you would normally see much earlier in the game, though Shadow doesn't necessarily join you there. The way that this is rearranged is that oh wait, no, Shadow isn't joining. Is Shadow joining us here? They named him. I wasn't sure if that was.
Yeah, it joins just a little bit after you
Yeah.
take Celis.
Okay, very good. So we will see Shadow sort of show up in Locke's scenario rather than Sabin's scenario in another difference from normal. Fathlo is adding Assault and Battery to Locke's rap sheet here and is moving us through the rest of the normal part of this scenario. Again, Brenner's very, very close. So after this scenario, we're going to be.
Hey! The password is FFR Rando.
Nice. Huh. I wonder
Outstanding.
if there was some fingers on the scale there.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah.
We like pleasing the crowd. It's a thing we do. Anyway, so we're coming up on the end of the scenarios. We'll be teleported back to Narsh after all of this. And if this were a normal Kafka at Narsh run, we would be heading into the final stretch where we'll have our climactic pre-party battle. You'll see a few different strategies here, but for the most part, because we are in a race setting, we're going to be using the speedrunning strat where we basically just run past everybody, position ourselves so that we don't get any encounters, and then skip past the final sort of guardian before running straight up to Kefka. And so you'll probably see both of the runners do that unless they somehow get caught, which happens from time to time. But it'll be a pretty quick Kefka and Narsh run through, and then we'll move on to the rest of the run, which takes place by moving to the other side of the continent that we're currently on.
Just saw a blood mage on a iron armor.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
friendly.
That one will
Casting with
unfortunately
our
not really
hit
see
points?
use. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yet another of the junction effects. We have discovered, and I say discover because the creator of Junctions, Abyssinum, who also had the small claim to fame of actually writing the entire Rando in the beginning, we merged in his changes for the Junctions, but the request was that we don't actually look up what they do. So it's been kind of a fun scavenger hunt to find new junctions and explore the possibilities and try to determine their effects. We have a spreadsheet that we're running. I think we're in the hundreds at this point of junction effects, and we're still finding a few new ones and still figuring out some of them, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think we've got about 85% of them down, though there are 4 new junctions added in a very recent update, so I have very little data on those, to be honest. But yeah, the rest of them, we have a good handle on what they do. That's fun. Another thing that's fun is Shadow is now in the party, and that is interesting for me because I kind of forgot to get Shadow when I was checking this seed.
He's just gonna hang out at the table and keep drinking. That's what Shadow do. He's fine.
With Chain Blaster.
With Blaster, yeah. So Blaster is an instant death spell. And we are going to start blasting through this run.
Yeah. Notably, it is a instant death skill with very poor accuracy. But if you have Chain Blaster, you got a lot of shots. So it's really like Gatling Blaster at this point.
That being said, Dark Slash just missed the same enemy twice, so, you know, normal blaster things.
Yep, just blaster things. Oh, but when a monster cold opens on me, it hits all 4.
I still remember that.
Oh, yeah.
You did point out that BC has its own intelligence and its own sense of humor.
It sure does. It sure does.
So we've seen actually 2 monster in a boxes, I think, in the basement here. They've all been doable, so it's not been too big of a problem, but interesting that we're getting a couple of them here.
So I want to speak to the monster in a box thing because we've made a little bit of a to-do about it, and I want to point something out is that there is actually a flag called BS in a box, which is exactly what it sounds like. And if you turn it on, it will actually make the monster in a box formations pretty much anything you want, like anything that the game can come up with. You will get the unfair things in there. But naturally, the randomizer is weighted to tier the monster in a box encounters to the locations that they are in. So it is not inherently unfair. You can just choose to make it, oh dear.
Wow,
Oh, that is so rude. That is so rude.
Oh dear.
I think so. Fatho just got wave cannoned.
That is Storm.
Storm, excuse me.
Yeah, which is notably the Blizzard Orb skill from Umaro in Vanilla.
Yeah, I mean...
It's also extremely powerful.
Yeah, I was about to make a point that, like, hey, look, Fatho managed to take out a reasonably difficult monster box in a very short amount of time, and he got over 1,000 EXP on the one character. And Beyond Chaos doesn't care, apparently, about that. It'll help him for the rest of the seat, though.
Actually, I mean, yeah, that tunnel armor is not going to be drilling through anything anytime soon. But that's okay. I did want to give out some quick shout-outs here to the fighter shadow variant here. I do appreciate, throwing that in there for the FFR rando here.
When we talk about randomization and things that have gone into it, for me personally, I do feel that the music is the biggest contributor to enjoyment of play in the seeds that I've played. Even though, like, I love the gameplay, I love the options, but the music, the ambiance that is generated from that really brings it to another level. And I just want to give a quick highlight to the individuals who ported and arranged music from other well-known RPGs and maybe not well-known RPGs into this to sort of accentuate the experience. It's been an absolute treat, and it keeps on giving.
I do also.
I don't know if the Twitch is going to allow me to put a link here, but we actually have a site that allows you to play all the music that's in the randomizer. I've just placed it in chat there, so it's like a comprehensive jukebox for everything, and you get to. It gives all
that got eaten.
If there's a mod that would be so kind as to look at it and reveal it, that would be great.
It shows up on my screen, so I was like, yes, I got it. I'm the best. And it didn't tell me that it didn't work. Well, I've attempted to post it. You can pretend that I've done my job. It would make me very happy.
Well done, Cecil. Well done. Thank you for that link.
I can fix that.
I mean, it's to really underline what Muppets and Cecil have said. Like it wasn't just that they rearranged the music and added a bunch of new stuff, which in and of itself was a Herculean effort. I mean, we're talking about revamping the entire way that the music is even played in the engine itself, and that's was necessary to do to bring in and make the new music sound as if it came from the original game, as opposed to like having instruments that they need more FF6 sounding. So it was a massive effort.
Little pink Burby.
I see that. Let me see if I can just cheat by putting a bunch of spaces in there.
Good Lord, are we hacking the site that we're doing comms on?
That's right. That's right. We'll get through.
Let's see if Twitch is smart enough to beat me here.
Oh baby, you nailed it. So, thank you, Darkman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darkman. We appreciate
more legitimate link.
Yeah, that is not sketchy at all. Please click.
As we ban the commentator in real time as they are doing commentary.
At least I got banned as I lived.
So, the rest of this particular trudge up to Kefka at Narsh is relatively normal. You've seen it before. You've seen the tricks that are used in the Kefka at Narsh runs. It's going to be relatively the same. This is actually a fantastic time for donations and announcements, if we have any.
Of course. I would like to go ahead and remind chat that we do have some live incentives right now for our upcoming run of FFR. We have the 3 orb specific. Still need $80 to get that met. What that'll do is it'll force our runners to go after 3 specific orbs instead of all 4 normally required to go on to Topher. And then we have the Force Class bid war going on right now. We have $55 for Thief in the lead, followed closely by $50 for both Black Belt and White Mage, and then $25 for poor Black Mage. No Red Mage donations yet, but that can still change. And you have until the start of the FFR run to get those incentives met. And really quick, I do also just want to go ahead and mention that we are here raising money for the Liam Foundation. One of their ongoing projects that they're working on right now is having regularly ongoing meetups for D&D, support groups for trans and non-binary adults, queer teen meetup, and adult peer support groups. Just a couple of the things that they're doing to help out the LGBTQIA plus community through respect, advocacy, and passionate hearts to promote thriving in society. So chat, your donations are going to an amazing cause, and we appreciate everything that y'all can give to help support that organization.
Everyone's a human. Everyone. Treat each other well. We're coming up on the end to Kefka at Narsh right here. And relatively neck and neck, wouldn't you say, Fu?
Yeah, we have kept within no more than a minute or so of each other throughout this entire run. A lot of the differences have come down to the encounter rate, being able to run from encounters, a few decisions in the way that looting happened. Yeah, it's been a very, very close race, and so I anticipate that we're going to come down to the wire in the end here.
Ah!
Oh boy, Kefka has seen better days. He appears to be a spider of some kind now.
Is this Mystic Quest now? There's a
Yeah.
spider boss here.
Yeah. No, we figured we a few more shout outs to a few other FF games. Why not? I think there are actually Mystic Quest sprites in there somewhere.
Carmack, he
You are
hasn't
about that.
lost weight. Kefka just put all of his weight into one little section of his body.
Well, no, you lose weight whenever you're spinning your web. There's a I'm just gonna shut up now.
Yeah, I mean that's wild. I thought this was a snowfield.
Oh boy. That's a whole new set of nightmares for us all tonight. Thank you, Muppets.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Kefka himself is kind of a nightmare. He's doing some pretty heavy damage here.
Dark Slash has jumped out ahead a little bit. I missed what I think Fathlo what was holding up Fathlo, but they're both in the Kefka at Narsh fight. Has about 3,000 HP, which Dark Slash is now depleted. Usually not a particularly difficult boss unless they get a nasty skill that you don't expect. There's a lot of level 2 magic in vanilla on Kefka. The first time you may see that. And because we've seen tiering that sort of supersedes a lot of that, we're more or less ready for the general space that Kefka exists in the tiering, and this boss tends to not be a huge pain. The other thing that we're
killed me when I did this.
or sometimes it'll just murder you. I mean that's also possible. We are going to see what Cognazzo actually is, and if it doesn't turn into a king from FF4 sprite, I'm going to be really disappointed.
That'd be great. But he will be doing the reverse of hiding inside his shell. He's going to be removing the shell, and Pedro, the Cognazzo, talking to the Smith Forge thing.
That is unicorn.
Which you might notice is not Tritalk.
Is not Tritarch. Turns into buddy.
Fun bud. We're going to the dark world, folks. We forgot, so no one sent us a moon pearl, and we're going to need to deal with that.
Terra has become Super Bunny.
Yeah, and so normally this would be the end of a Kefka Narsh run, but as we are now doing upper percent, we're going to move on to the later phase of this run, which is going to take us through Kolingen, which is mostly a shopping trip, a little bit of light looting and such in that area. We'll be moving down to the Jidor to do that quick sequence and some more shopping. And then one of the big addition here, for the most part, is Zozo, which is not present in Kefka Narsh run, and one of the major areas that would be added to an upper percent. So that's going to be where we see some more divergences. While I think it is unlikely that the runners are going to make use of it, I'll mention it now. Another thing it's typically randomized in the game is that in normal circumstances, one was supposed to figure out what to set the clock to in Zozo to obtain the chainsaw. And so, as most people did, they just looked it up in a guide and put it in. But you can't do that here because that has been changed, and you have to talk to the townspeople who are also lying to you, and it turns into a logic puzzle. So and the chainsaw has been randomized to a different item with a slightly higher tier, so that it's worth the the effort to actually go through and figure out what the clock is.
So it looks like Dark Slash is exiting before he does anything. I have a feeling there's going to be some looting. Yeah, here we go.
Yeah. So you're going to loot the chest house up here, and of course he doesn't want to run into, a super boss of some kind and lose all of that progress.
Yeah, now this is a hallmark strategy and requirement of most of the longer speed runs of Final Fantasy VI. You do this loot for no sketch percent, and for glitchless any percent, and for 100% too. It has a lot of stuff in it that you end up basically liquidating for cash in the run, but here you can get some pretty high tier things. Unfortunately, we got a thief knife as our most notable piece, which is not super stellar, as that, I believe, is vanilla.
Yeah, and steal and capture for the most part are not certainly not a typical part of this run, and don't often factor into other types of runs for the most part. So there's a few commands that just don't see as much usage. So steal and morph and a few others tend to get put to the wayside.
There are an awful lot of junctions out of that, though. I think I saw a junction beret.
I often junction a beret when I can. I think it
raspberry
is a nice
one
accompaniment. I was unaware they came in flavors, but yes, I'm down for it.
So just a little bit of shopping. Fire skeins? What's going on with that? Somebody have throw?
Yes, throw is present in the seed.
Oh, I didn't notice. Must have been on Gao or something.
So both runners have now exited Narsh without finding a little hidden Easter egg, and so I want to call it out so that new runners go and look for it. I just want to give out, a quick shout out to Cliff Doggo, who is a very dear to my heart. Just as a quick story here, while we're making our way to the Collagen area, when we were doing some changes to basically, we put in some changes for like the beginner house and added some healing and things like that. We had to do some rearranging in the game code for the NPCs, and as a sort of temporary measure, we basically put one NPC off in an area that is not often seen, but can be seen from normal sort of moving around the Narsh area. That character ended up being one of the dogs. So we, of course, bonded and named that dog Cliff Doggo because he's on the cliff. The people who were responsible for that modification then figured out a way to undo it and remove the dog from the cliff, which I immediately vetoed. So Cliff Doggo is there to stay. Cliff Doggo is forever. We are all Cliff Doggo. Thank you. That is all.
He was doing no harm. Cliff Doggo was minding his own business and watching out over the good people of Narsh.
I get it. Minding his own business because Narsh is...
And two, Brute.
Throwing him down, baby. Throwing him down.
All right, so we're moving here through the shopping area of Collagen. I'm not seeing too. Oh, good lord. Well, you can see that the somewhat unusual, but maybe not surprising to some folks. Items like elixirs, axe ethers, things like that. They're for sale. They are incredibly expensive. But if you were to get lucky and have a shop that had a lower randomized price point and just so happened to be able to invoke some of the shop price modifiers, some of the characters, female and male gender characters will have certain price increases or decreases. You see this only with the king, with Edgar in the vanilla game. But that can also lower the price of these things. And so you may get lucky and find a shop that has, everyone's favorite Super Balls or some elixirs or something like that at an affordable rate. And that can actually also make a pretty big difference in a run. If you can stock up on a few, that might allow you to power through a few things much more quicker than you would be able to normally.
Yeah, Super Balls are an early I win button. You do have to roll RNG a little bit, and I don't think that they've ever really worked to the degree that I've wanted them to for me. But I've definitely seen them do a lot of damage for other people.
On the flip side to the whole shop thingy too is now that at least Dark Slash has seen ethers and X ethers in shops, what that also allows them to determine is that now you can sell ethers and X ethers, which are pretty good sellables in this run because you typically don't cast any magic in Opera Percent because you have about 4.5 seconds to learn spells and it's off the races for you. But I noticed Fathlo has a couple ethers, so if Fathlo were to sell them in the future, he'd net a nice cool 20k GP to just be able to do whatever with, which is very useful at this point in the game.
Just got 23k more from that jar that usually has a hero ring in it.
Oh boy. That's it. Oh no, that's this encounter.
Is that chicken lip?
No, that's mind
chicken lips
candy.
are, yeah.
Mind candy is not
they're
typically
up in
a
the
bad
upper part.
encounter. Yeah, but mind candy is a bad encounter here.
So to follow on a little bit on what Cecil was talking about, in some of the other flag sets that are more common for things like Kefka and Narsh, and actually also within other normal runs of Beyond Chaos, some of the Esper setups are different. So you may not, for instance, be able to equip certain Espers on certain characters. That's not a factor in this run, obviously, but for Kefka Narsh runs that we've done in the past, we have actually enabled Espers at the very beginning. So you might see in some cases that a runner, as soon as they load up and walk into the entrance of Narsh, you saw them go straight to the menu, do a bunch of configuration stuff, but they'll also check their Espers just to see if there's anything they can learn and what else they might be able to pull from those. They, of course, are also randomized. You saw before that Tritalk was not the Esper that we encountered at the top of Narsh. It was Unicorn, though its sprite was also changed around. And that actually carries through the rest of the run. So you're going to see different Espers show up in places that you would expect their normal variants, and that is consistent through the early part of the game.
Dark Slash got bit by a chain slide against some flying enemies. I think it was 9 that I counted. It's a long animation, and 9 times a long animation equals he is now behind Fathlo.
The other thing is that those enemies have split damage, so when he launched them, it returned a quarter of the damage back to the character who cast launcher, and he's dead now.
Wait, Mobit, are you saying that Dark Slash slid back into second place?
I wasn't, but I am now.
All right, so we're well, I'm not proud of that.
Really salting the earth with that one, huh?
Good food.
Okay, let me try and recover from that a bit. So we're now in Zozo. It has all of the trappings of a town, but of course, for those of you who have played this game, you realize very quickly that this is no normal town. We're getting encounters on the map. Everybody is lying to us about things, and we're soon going to see that the person at the very top is not particularly interested in letting us pass.
I thought he was my daddy.
Oh boy. Well,
My daddy love.
Yeah,
does
he's
hate
fighting.
He hates fighting. It's true. And perhaps so Dataluma can be tricky. I won't say that that he's a particular sticking point in the run, though this is a relatively new category, so I'm not sure I should be saying that. But one thing about Dataluma is that his script is actually quite complex. In fact, it's so complex that they sort of screwed up a little bit. They have counters to things that you couldn't possibly do in vanilla, like steal. The other thing that you probably haven't seen any of the enemies do up to this point is that Dataluma can execute player commands. As it turns out, you can put most of the simpler player commands into enemy scripts. They work pretty much how you would expect them to. That includes things like defense and row. Those are commands that you can insert. Morph, for instance, will also work. Coin toss is also something that can show up. And it will use, not only will it hurt you, it will also use your own money to do so. So there are a lot of really fun combinations that can show up, and Dataluma's script being randomized in certain ways means that you may see some commands show up that you wouldn't necessarily expect.
The other thing is that there are a lot of things that Dataluma is not immune to that normal bosses would be immune to by virtue of the fact that you would never see them at this moment in time. Control being my favorite thing. He is susceptible to control. The skill that you get from wearing the fake mustache on Realm.
Yeah, so you've neither the right character nor the right item for it, but he's vulnerable to it anyway. Most bosses are not vulnerable to that. They have the control immunity flag correctly enabled. For some reason, Dataluma is an exception to this.
Yep.
I never understood the fake mustache. When I put those on, people are less likely to listen to the things that I tell them to do. So I don't really get the whole.
It's because you already too distinguished, Fu. You overflowed your distinguishedness.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would
tunnel
do.
armor.
Whoops.
So speaking of things that will pop up from our past, here's tunnel armor. It wasn't too big of a problem before, and we have even more tools to deal with it now. So I doubt it's going to do much more than put Fatho a little bit further behind. But here's a great exhibition of bosses showing up where they ain't supposed to be.
Yeah, I didn't open that.
Crackety boom.
Fatho will get whatever the Tintinabar. Yeah, that wasn't okay.
Yeah.
There is no experience here. Yeah, there is no experience here because bosses aren't going to give experience in this case. So that's sort of a little bit of a wash there.
Well, you definitely have to wash after battling the goop.
Yeah, it'll get you.
It'll get you every time. All right, Faflo about to fight Daddy Llama.
Dark Slash skips.
Dark Slash very much right back in it now with the tunnel armor delay. Actually enters the battle before. Dataluma
is tunnel
seems
armor.
A bit more tanky than he was before. He's going to absorb fire. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult, but slide probably is going to make this somewhat more trivial.
It looks like Dataluma's bringing out all the guns for this fight.
However, Fatho, I think, exploiting a lightning weakness on the right side there with Bolt Edge.
Yep, Faflo found a crack in the armor.
Yeah, we're going to rely pretty heavily on slide here to do, Dark Slash is going to rely on slide to push through this. It's a question of a few throws with shurikens. And you can see there that, so on Fathlo's side, a couple things to note. They used an item. That is also something that you can insert in monster scripts, and that does work. You probably did see that in vanilla because that's one of the few times that it's actually used. Another thing you may have noticed is that some of the numbers actually don't, had colors that may not have been something you're used to. In fact, I think we've seen at least 3 colors of numbers, maybe even 4. Cecil, any thoughts on what might have been going on there?
Yeah, so another quality of life feature is that colors. So yeah, but for real, we changed the magic point damage and magic point healing fonts. Not fonts, the fonts are the same, but the colors that the numbers are when you do that sort of stuff. Magic point healing is now blue, and magic point damage is now red, and that's just one of the several information sort of extra feedback we give to the player to allow the player to make more insightful decisions. We have other things such as if you miss something like an instant death attack, it will tell you if it fails, if it just happened to not pass the stamina check, or if it is nullified because the enemy is straight up immune to it. We also have things like cycling auras. Normally, the save, shell, haste, reflect, slow, and stop, they have a priority in the original, in vanilla, and that priority can't be overturned, but in Beyond Chaos, we changed that so they'll actually take their turn. They'll go one after the other, and they'll cycle in turn, so that you can see all of the statuses you have, which is very nice because it allows you to tell, oh, maybe I have safe right now, but do I also have shell? Or do I also have haste? That sort of thing. And there are a few other feedback things as well. There's quite a lot in there to make sure that things are more obvious to the player.
It also cycles in the menu too, so when you target yourself with a healing item or a healing spell, just before you confirm the target, you can actually look in the lower left-hand corner and it'll show statuses as well, and those statuses cycle as well. So at a faster rate than the auras. So you have the information in a couple of different ways.
This is especially useful because it also covers normally invisible statuses like Life 3. Life 3 in particular, the way that the developers programmed it was to generally give more visible statuses on the characters, more visibility in the menus, and I presume this was so that you could match the visible statuses to visible indicators in the menu. For example, Reflect is a very visible status. It is incredibly high priority on the character's appearance. So you can see, oh, this character is glowing blue, and it says Reflect. That means Reflect is what this blue aura means. So that's presumably what they're going for. But one of the casualties of this system is that something that is incredibly invisible by Life 3 is impossible to see. You have to remember that. And if you don't, well, sucks to be you, I guess. But with our system, it cycles through it all, so you can eventually just observe and tell, oh, I'm casting Life 3, but I don't quite remember who actually has Life 3 at this point of time. Let me just see. And then you can make that decision more clearly.
Gentlemen, if I may, it looks like we are in for a performance over in Dark Slash's stream. So I would invite you all to sit back, don your finest apparel, grab your binoculars or spectacles or monocle.
I'll prefer monocle in this case.
Sit in those high balcony seats that you paid so dearly for and enjoy a night at the opera.
The thing about Opera Percent is that it adds 2 particularly significant legs to the race. One of them is Zozo, which is for the runner's sake. It's a great, entertaining romp for them. The other is the Opera House, which is for the fans, the viewers.
Alas!
And I think while we're waiting to sort of gear up into the opera here, I'm not sure who has the audio. I'm guessing it's Dark Slash, but so one thing that might have slipped by while we were rushing through the end of Zozo there is that we were picking up a bunch of espers. They were randomized, and as was mentioned before, we aren't necessarily going to use them for magic, but one of them was Golem. which provides a good deal of physical protection, damage protection from enemies. And so, if its MP cost is within the realm of usability, might be tactical play against Ultros 2.
So one of the fun flags that we've got here, a purely aesthetic flag, Last Draco. It makes alterations to the opera itself, including randomizing the character sprites and names.
And notice
You'll
on the
see.
right, the Impresario on Faflo's screen has been replaced with Ultros, so now there are 2 Ultroses running around.
The irony is not lost.
Here we go, the lyrics. Nintendo and Sega. Wait for it. We're waging war.
Totally appropriate for a game published in 1994.
Time is Nintendo's greatest hero. Is she safe? Is she waiting?
He is the protagonist of the night. Give a warm welcome to the clock. He is.
Let's hear the dulcet sounds.
First, chocobos. Yeah, the
Oh, that's
samples used in
delightful.
the opera. Samples used in the opera are very entertaining, and that is not the only one you'll hear. Obviously, if you're familiar with the game, Draco and Rolls also have character voices, and they will have their own vocal performance. Every new randomized possibility that can be placed in the opera sequence has its own unique voice sample to go with it. Some of them are repurposed from other parts of the game. Uh, some of them I think might be novel samples just for the purposes of this code here, but it's all very good stuff. And now we'll get into the actual meat and potatoes of the opera here with Garnet as our lead.
I'm gonna
The
sit
switch
back
up
and
is-
listen.
Switch up doesn't quite end yet, so take a look for newer things also coming up here.
Oh boy, I forgot about that.
And now the dance with time.
Then we'll get to see some of the other modifications to the opera. It's not simply the vocals. There's a bit more fun in store. Normally Garnet is supposed to pick up, or rather Celeste is supposed to pick up a bouquet of flowers there. It's not a bouquet of flowers.
It is not. Notably, Celis has been lifting.
Boosting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're going to perform long toss now. It's like shot put, almost. Woo! That's some good arc. I'm going to give that one a 7.5, guys. What do you think?
That never gets
I think
old.
that's a solid 8.
That's a solid 8.
I
yeah.
do worry about the stagehands at the bottom.
Yes, I do too. Very much so.
Yeah, one of those guys is going to give a 6, as in 6 feet under, because he's dead.
Yeah. That's just what you get from the French judge.
Atho is juking at the clock like crazy.
Yeah, well, that's a dance, right? Trying to turn the waltz into a two-step.
It's different timing, though.
Yeah, that's what the clock is there for. It's a metronome.
But somebody below got Looney Tuned.
Alright, Dark Slash is probably going to go
We
to
must now-
final... Yeah,
We must now adopt the spirit of Sega.
this might be the last convenient time to read out donations.
Yes, please.
Perfect. We have a $10 donation from Danny3883 that says $10 for Skyward Sword file name AAFMP. And chat, I do want to go ahead and let you know that the window to get the 3 orb specific incentive for the FF1 randomizer run coming up next is closing here soon by the end of the run. So get those donations in. I definitely want to see that met. I think 3 orb specific is going to be a heck of a showcase for the FFR randomizer. So get those donations in and make sure you put them towards that incentive, please.
I'm very tickled that we are going to inform Master Ultros's plan to gem up the opera.
Oh, what's he going to toss off the balcony, I wonder?
Normally it's a 3-ton weight.
Correct.
Yeah, that's normally where the weight sprite is. Oh, now we get to hear Atmos sing too.
Yeah, good.
Although first we get the incredible imagery of... Wait for it. Yes.
The clock riding on a pink chocobo.
We got robot memes. Hopefully that fixes.
Beautiful.
That is the sample from that theme that plays during his fight. You know the one that carries the melody of that song that everybody thinks is super hype because it's super hype.
And speaking of super hype, man, that conductor just
He goes
110% every time.
every note.
Uh-oh. Ultra's gonna toss the baby.
He sure isn't. We are going to save that child.
Better dash.
Don't
The stakes
toss
have
the
been
baby.
raised, and Oddish is on the case.
I can't think of anyone better, quite frankly.
Yeah, there are a number of sprites that can go in place of the 4-ton weight or 3-ton weight or whatever. A fireball, a magicite, another ultros, a rat.
There's an unused book sprite in the game that we've repurposed to be throwable off that too, which I think is very funny.
Yep.
Also, it's
Just
just a
would
book.
literally be throwing the book at them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think it's lethal, but if it's my chemistry textbook, well then, sorry, that's going to be a mushroom cloud.
This is my formal petition to get a kitchen sink sprite.
So we're coming up now.
Fire rods.
Yeah, we're coming up on the end here. So basically, anything you got, you're going to throw at this point because the rats are visible, so you should be able to avoid them. They're very tricky to avoid in many cases, though. So in some cases, you may end up spending more time trying to avoid them than actually just taking the fight. Darkslash getting very low, almost makes it past all three of them there. Gets caught at the end. But he's got a fairly sizable lead now going into the Ultros 2 fight. So Fatho's kind of got to depend on, I was going to say, not getting hit by a rat, but here we are. So
Yep.
this is given how close we've been, this is a very make or break segment. The rats really do, can have a pretty big effect on the end of the run. Ultros 2, not a particularly dangerous boss. Again, with all the same caveats that we normally say, it has some special mechanics. While it has an HP pool, it's sort of divided amongst a few different places, and therefore, if you can pile on a lot of damage, you might be able to end the fight fairly quickly.
Yeah, when I did this, it was actually very easy because I think one thing that both runners missed is that, well, there's a convenient pile of GP dumped in your lap from that hero ring pot up north that gave like 23,800. Ghidorah's item shop sells super balls, so I ended up buying. I had like 50k in the bank. I'm just like, good. I was hoping to have something to spend it on, so I just absolutely thrashed this segment with super balls. So yeah, a testament to the diversity of strategy that you can employ in any particular part of this game. Also, atomic ray hurts. Holy.
Yeah. Nasty. Oh, Faflo doesn't have a way to revive. Oh, it's going mono a mono Lock versus Ultros.
Oh boy, that's gonna be a showdown for the
go
ages.
home. I mean, sometimes you just gotta throw. I mean, sometimes Batman's just gotta do the thing, right? Like,
yeah, that's right. Batman, we need you.
Cape Crusader strikes. Yeah, I also took the atomic ray. It was scary. I was lucky I had 0 Phoenix Downs to spare after reviving. Like, I was on the wire. This is definitely a very interesting seed because if you beeline it, you can scrape through, but only barely. So it's very long-term resource intensive with how you budget everything.
get your GGs and your crack booms out in chat. I think
That
Yeah,
is
Time for Dark Slash.
yeah, 158.11 for Darkslash right there. And congratulations to Darkslash, but I'm going to tell you guys right now, I want to see this 1v1 on Faflo's stream. Him winning this fight, to me, would be almost worth a victory of its own.
Especially because one of the things about this mechanic, about this fight, is that when you're in a side attack like this, you get 50% extra damage with physical attacks if you're attacking something from behind. As soon as Ultros turns around, that bonus is gone.
this will answer, of course, the age-old question of can Batman defeat Ultros if given enough prep time?
Yeah. Well, one of the ticks that you're seeing over there is a junction called Leech, which for me has been an absolute MVP of a junction. I love it. I believe it. Rough. I believe that it causes leak damage or damage over time to also heal you. Is that correct, Cecil?
Yeah, it has two effects. The first is to apply the seizure status to all enemies in the fight, which is that thing that makes them take damage over time. Actually, I think it's more like Phantasm's effect, which is notably different because nothing is immune to it. Enemies can Although one exception with the way the junction is that enemies can avoid taking damage if they have inherent regen. But regardless of the situation, anytime any opponent takes any sort of damage over time, like HP leak or even poison, or if that enemy takes healing over time, like regen, your character heals for the same amount. So it's kind of twofold in its effect. So you can heal off of the enemy's regen too. You can also heal off the enemy's poison, which is significantly more potent later in the fight.
It's a very unfortunate setup here, though, because I don't think he's got enough damage per second to really take down any of the forms of Ultros here. So he's going to have to cycle through, I believe it's 4 different Ultroses before getting back to the initial one.
Well, there are 4 Ultroses total.
Ooh.
Oh, he's imped. Oh boy, he's
And
to
he's
wait for
been
another
imped.
imp.
Yeah, this is going to be rough. Because he has no way of curing this, and imp basically removes all your ability to do anything but fight and cast imp. And so all of your commands are disabled. It's not looking great.
It's not looking great, but he does have a Fire Rod and is proccing Fire 2. Well, he did it once. Drain's not super stellar. Okay, it's all right. But I don't think he's in danger of losing right now because of that HP regen that he's getting out of the leech status.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is dicey, but he could possibly move into the front row. And if he were to do that, then not only the initial swing, which is pretty irrelevant here, honestly, but the proc would also be doubled in strength because... Oh, here we go. He might get lucky. But procs are dependent on row, so you'll notice the proc from the Fire Rod is Fire 2, but it's dealing half the damage of his actual Fire 2 because he's in the back row. Now he's doing full damage again because the actual Fire 2 spell does respect row like every other spell in the game. Except for Tentacle.
No!
Right.
Still whittling down. So each of the, as I mentioned before, each of the different Ultros forms here has their own HP pool. So we're slowly whittling down each one of them as they move along.
Now, is it a global timer that causes the shift, or is it a number of turns?
That's actually the fun part. It's the original switch is that after Ultros takes 2 turns, on your next attack, he will counterattack by switching places.
Ah.
So that can throw people for a loop. I think after that, it gets a little muddy because I think the action of switching counts as one of the turns for the next one. So after the Ultros uses 1 turn, then when you attack it will switch as a counterattack. The fun part is, if you really want to get technical about it, the best way to beat this fight may have just been to wait for a little bit after Ultros took his 2nd turn, let the leech do all the work, then fire to him, and then win without him swapping once, because he can't counterattack the leech and switch places. That is some really technical stuff, though.
He can't counterattack leech.
Yeah, it's not an attack, it's just a damage over time effect.
Ah.
You sure aren't, buddy. You sure aren't.
Ain't no garden variety.
Not even really an octopus, but no one tell him that.
was
There we go.
time.
GG's
Yeah.
for Faflo. 20402 there. It's a good fight. That was bound to be difficult with just one character and not a whole lot of damage options.
Yeah, that was arduous. Arduous and also very entertaining. Honestly, I really like what we were able to see here. One of the biggest draws, of course, being all of the aesthetic changes, the music, the sprites, the visuals, but also really, really good to note that the difficulty curve can be tailored to what you want. It's just been a real thrill to watch it. unfold since version 62 into the being that Beyond Chaos has become since BCEX, and then now the Community Edition.
Well, it looks like we're closing out here. Should we be handing back over then?
Actually,
we can have the run.
Yeah, we can do interviews. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone want to grab Dark Slash and Fathlo?
Dark Slash actually asked me first, so yeah, I let them know. So I don't know where they are, but that's out of my hands either way.
Yeah. Hey, there we are. Welcome on in, guys.
Hello.
Thanks.
These both of you.
What a great opera. Imp song's so fun.
Yeah. I had no Phoenix Downs. I got Atomic Raid. Well,
Yeah.
soloing Ultros.
Yeah. I saw that double take where you went into the item menu and you were like, oh, well, I guess I'm not reviving. Wait, what? Hang on.
Yeah.
Good.
That was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, it was a good scene.
It was great. It was great to see the divergent styles go neck and neck right down to the wire. I think you guys ended up being apart by one storm and then an unfortunate atomic ray. I think that was pretty much it. Notably, Dark Slash went to Mobiliz, and Fathel, you did not.
Yeah. I had no money, so I was like, I'll just skip it.
Yeah.
I was searching for the elusive charm bangle that never showed up.
Yeah. Safety bit in every clock.
Yeah.
So, Fathlo, you're a pretty experienced runner of FF6. How much of that actually applies to Beyond Chaos when you're doing something like this?
Not that much. Other than like the basics of trying to find smoke bombs and warp stones.
Yeah.
So in vanilla, you get those at that water town. I forget the name.
Nikea?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dark Slash, you're more of a permadeath runner. And tend to be a little more completionist. How did you have to tailor your play style in order to participate in something that's more of a race?
Maybe not saving quite as often and not spending quite as much time in the menus.
Menuing! It kills every RPG speedrunner.
Yep.
Always.
Given the somewhat relative newness of the category, is there anything that you think might need an immediate tweak? Like, do you think that the permadeath flags are, for the most part, an appropriate format? Any other thoughts in that category?
I think they're pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually kind of like it a little bit better than some of the Kefka Nurse runs we've done, because you spend a lot more time thinking. Like there's no like clear-cut way to do it, right?
Yeah.
And if you have bad characters, then you want to open more chests. If you have good characters, you want to open less chests.
Yeah, that's something I could have done less of. I was opening some chests I shouldn't have, like the ones in Zozo, and then I got a tunnel armor there. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sure that was content for the fans. We were all pleased to see it.
That's right. Just forcing a show. One of the things that is consistent, vanilla and through to BC, is of course the significance of level where damage is concerned. Basic damage computations being not randomized. Is there a level threshold that you feel is kind of right on the edge of being between too comfortable and too small?
I mean, I'd like to get out of Narsh at level 6 with Terra if I can.
Mm.
And as long as you don't get a -3 on lock, you end up being, in that 10 to 12 range by the end of the opera, which is pretty reasonable.
if you're under 10 and you don't have good skills, you'll probably have a tough time through Zozo and the Opera is my guess, but...
Yeah, and going further in the game from here would be it gets quite a bit harder once you go into Magic Factory, so you're very low leveled at this point.
Oh yeah.
Going any further would be like...
Yeah, the moment you hit the southern continent, the first encounter you get into would probably show you that you're way too underleveled. Hello, chicken lip. Yeah, I think the only other question that I have has a little bit more to do with boss setup than anything. Comes down to when you are aware that it's randomized, even though you understand that things can be wildly different from what you expect. Is there a method to boss preparation for you guys that you sort of go into it with a plan, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, all the bosses have scripts, so we kind of know what they're going to do anyway. But we don't know what abilities specifically they'll all do, but there's scripts there that you can follow. As far as gear setup, it kind of just depends what you have. I was running on like no gear there until after the belt. I wasted a Phoenix down there too because I revived Terra and she had like nothing on. I'm like, why did I even revive her to take off an Ashura? Like,
yeah. The other thing I think about in boss fights is like, if a lot of my damage is elemental, I try to open with elemental because if they absorb the first hit, it doesn't matter. It's the same as null.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
If you've hit them with non-elemental for a bit and then use an elemental and they absorb it, it hurts a lot more.
Yeah.
So just trying to sequence your attacks accordingly.
Now, I know that in permadeath, I tend to lean a little more heavy on things that are a little less used in vanilla, status ailments, mute, muddle, etc. Do you see any value of utilizing any of those in a race like this?
Sometimes. There's a few bosses in this race that you can often stop, for example. So there was a race we did last week where we had a raid with a stop rage, so I was using that.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on, again, how strong your characters are, because if you don't have good skills, it may be worth confusing Vizipas.
Yeah.
But if you can just kill them in 1 or 2 actions, it's not worth the time. So so you just kind of like, how much does using an action that doesn't deal damage help you in the long run to hopefully save time overall, right? That's kind of the math you have to do in your head.
Right. Right, and you're doing the math in matters of seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't always do it correctly.
It's
There
true.
is a
We know this.
Well, Cecil, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was curious. I know when I was running this seed, because I'm sort of out of practice with the racing side of things, I was thinking only just a couple seconds into the future. I'm curious, what sort of long-term ideas do you have? Are you able to think ahead throughout the rest of the seed as you're going, or do you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants like I do?
Kind of by the seat of your pants, yeah. Just kind of reacting off what you're getting.
I try to plan ahead. So in in our last practice race, I did not have enough money for a chocobo.
Yeah.
And so I'm very aware of how much each chocobo stable costs now in the run. And I make sure I have the money for that.
Yeah, I had to skip the first chocobo because I didn't have money. 60. I don't remember how much that guy cost, but I only had 68.
80.
Yeah, okay. So I was just short.
But yeah, other than that, like, if I have a triangle, I'll try to put it on somebody that I'm going to run with for a long time. Or if I knew a shop, like let's say South Figgy had smoke bombs, then I might want to do that scenario first, go get more. Those are things that I consider, but they don't always come into play, so. I do think about how I'm killing Ultros too, and I try to think of that early on because, or certainly from Kefka Nourish onto the Opera, because if you don't have good damage, that fight can just drag on, which is no fun.
Foo, you got any closing thoughts?
Good speed, good run. Thanks really for having us on. I hope we keep seeing the donations roll in.
Yeah.
And also feel free to roll by our Discord or our GitHub for the latest new releases. Get yourself involved and give this a try.
I do want to throw one final thing out there for everybody. I just want to give everyone an opportunity to give one shout out to an affecting member of the community. I would personally like to shout out Emberling for the work done with the music in Beyond Chaos.
I'm gonna be. Oh, go ahead,
Sure.
Cecil.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to shout out my brother Lockerbie too for getting me into the randomizer in the first place, and also he's coded a couple features like the cutscene skips that exist. For instance, I
forgot he did that.
Yeah. That was pretty much entirely him. That was a while ago, and we kind of worked together on the code that allows you to start in the World of Ruin. He took all of the programming for that, and he just ran with that, and I kind of helped consult along the way, but he did the vast majority of that. So
wow,
he's done a lot of he's done a few cool features for the randomizer, and I can't imagine how the last 9 years of my life would have been if I wasn't playing this on and on pretty much the entire time, and I wouldn't have the hundreds of connections I've made through this community as well. So it's such a strange, it's one of those strange things that you can't really think much of it at the time. It's like, I'm going to play silly randomizer and oops, my guys are dead, and now suddenly 9 years later we're here.
Boo, what do you got?
I think I'm gonna do a quick shout out to C-Dude. They've been very, very active lately. They're kind of a jack of all trades in terms of being, hacking into the game engine, being able to rearrange things from, whether it be NPCs or scripting events or things like that. Lots of expertise there. A lot of the more recent changes would not have been possible without them. So I think that's where I'd send that.
Dark Slash?
I would say Crimdall, but also just everybody who has contributed in any way, shape, or form to certainly BC's Community Edition, but also just BC in general, because it really has become a huge group effort. And despite being the head coordinator or whatever you want to call me, really it's the community who has built this randomizer and who have made it what it is. And it's awesome having so many people contribute to it. Like Crimdall has done such awesome work with the graphic user interface, and also has helped a lot with coding. C-Dude has done so much stuff. Abyssum came up with the junctions, which is fantastic, and of course started the whole dang thing. Everybody has helped me do different things at different times. I mean, Foo has, Cecil has, you all have, really. So to everybody, honestly.
Bathlo?
Big shout out to Abyssum.
Yeah.
Originally making it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually talked to him about this before, but it's a great game that I want to play forever.
Yep. It's pretty crazy how a game that is literally 30 years old has this much life breathed into it, and this large of a community of people who are this hype about it, and watching it change into an ever-growing, living, breathing thing. Community Edition really is an apt name for what it has become. It's really cool. And another shout out to Subtraction Soup, who I think is a bridge between what it was to what it has become now. A lot of work was done in between with EX that sort of bridged the gap between what do we do with this and where we are now. But yes, everybody's done an awful lot of work.
Yeah, so with that in mind, if the randomizer looks interesting, then you will find it interesting. I would absolutely recommend at least trying it, and you'll probably, as long as you have the time to spare, you may find that you can't put it down. But yeah, and absolutely feel free to join the Discord as well. We like to have people around on hand very frequently to answer questions because, yeah, any way you slice it, it's still, yeah, it's a bit of a learning curve to be sure, but it's a very fulfilling one. So, and joining the Discord helps for learning more and having questions answered and all that. Anyways, there's my shameless plug. Done.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
Thank you.
It's been great.
Thanks
It's
for
been
having
fun.
us. Thanks for racing. Thanks for commentating, guys. Appreciate you all.
Yeah.
Thank you all for the amazing showcase here. I didn't think I was going to see as much variety in the sprites as I was going to tonight, but you know, I'm always open to be pleasantly surprised.
That's
so
probably
chat,
about 1% of the sprites that exist in the randomizer.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
yeah, I think I saw in the comments someone said y'all have about like some odd 10,000 different sprites available to pull from. So
Yeah, it's a bunch. It's a bunch.
well, chat, that is going to do it for our Final Fantasy VI Beyond Chaos run. Throw out your shout outs again in chat for the amazing couch and runners. We are going to go ahead and start getting set up for the FFR Trio Shuffle run coming up next. But this is going to do it for me. This is the end of my shift, but don't worry. I will be leaving you in the very capable hands of Classic Gamer 76. So chat, I don't know if you saw it, but we have about 5-ish minutes left to meet that 3 orb specific cutoff. So if we have any generous donors who want to snipe that incentive for us, I would be more than happy to see that before I go. But until then, take care, and we'll be back very shortly with our next run.